Coronavirus disease is now spreading within counties in Kenya, from person to person through contact with droplets when an uninfected person speaks, coughs or sneezes, or through touching contaminated surfaces and objects. Anybody with a weakened body immunity has a greater risk of contracting coronavirus disease. People living with pre-existing medical conditions such as HIV, cancer, TB, diabetes, among others, must adhere to their treatment to strengthen immunity and therefore should ensure they have a constant supply of necessary medicines. Contact your clinic or health facility for information on how to access treatment. Help others within your network to access adequate supply of essential medicines. Ensure that you remain connected with your local networks for any support and follow the medical guidelines provided by your health facility to prevent coronavirus. Remember to stay updated with information on coronavirus using only trusted reliable channels. For more information on COVID-19, call 719 or dial *719#. COVID-19 is preventable. Protect yourself, your family, and the community. This message has been brought to you by the Government of Kenya and its partners.
Well, a very good evening to you. You are just in time for Channel 1 News Hour on a day when the Kenya Certificate of Primary Education National Examinations officially kicked off. We wish all the 1.2 million candidates the very best as they sit for their written examination. That is one of the stories that our reporters have filed for you tonight. Let's also focus on other stories that are shaping the news tonight in the highlights.
This is the very first time in the history of this country that our children are going to face an examination after having been away from class for 7 months.
1.2 million KCPE candidates begin the written examination countrywide amid mishaps. Celebrating an African icon, President Kenyatta joins other heads of state and government in paying their last respects to the late Tanzania President John Magufuli at a state funeral in the capital, Dodoma.
Because we have had this notion where people are complaining that somebody got positive the day after vaccinating. Now, you will get, if you get exposed, a day, a week, towards 2 weeks, you will still get.
Ministry of Health warns that vaccine doesn't give immediate protection, as 57 people found violating COVID-19 regulations sentenced to 1 week of community service.
Welcome back. Channel 1 News Hour begins right now with me, Catherine Achieng'a. Our sign language interpreter this evening is Lensa Odingo. Let's begin with the latest from the Kenya Certificate of Primary Education, which officially kicked off this morning with 1.2 million candidates sitting for the national exam. A total of 479 examination papers containers across the country were opened at 6 a.m. ahead of the distribution exercise across the country. Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha, who was in Thika, warned schools that had collected money from candidates but failed to register them for the examination that they will face the full wrath of the law. Let's focus on that story by Beatrice Gatonye.
The distribution and opening of examination materials began early Monday morning with senior Ministry of Education officials supervising the exercise in different counties across the country. Education Cabinet Secretary Professor George Magoha witnessed the opening of an examination container in Thika West, Kiambu County. Magoha saying a stern action will be taken against any private or public school management that ordered children to pay for the registration of the Kenya Certificate of Primary Education exams only for them to miss from the exams register.
This is the very first time in the history of this country that our children are going to face an examination after having been away from class for 7 months. I think they have recovered very, very swiftly, and that this will not have a very permanent scar or impact in the way they are going to perform the exams.
Magoha said that while all the unregistered candidates will not be penalized or denied the opportunity to sit for the national papers, school managements found culpable of occasioning their deregistration will face the full force of the law.
Those people who took money from the children, and we find that the children were not registered, we have decided as a government that the children must take the exam. Even though under protest, they must take the exam and they must not be penalized.
He said his ministry had established a command center where any hiccup in the process should be reported for swift action.
That the examination is being secured, the integrity of the examination process shall remain unquestionable. Each center manager has 2 policemen whose job is to ensure that that examination is kept with the utmost integrity.
Back at the capital city, candidates at Parklands Primary School were frisked before they were allowed into examination rooms. They were properly wearing their masks and social distance in the exam rooms was witnessed. At Mountain View School, Kasarani, Nairobi, the examination commenced with strict adherence to COVID-19 containment protocols. According to administrators, the school has adopted offering psychosocial support to candidates as they sit for the national examinations. Beatrice Gatonyengetich, Channel 1 News.
And in a related story, 2 Kenya Certificate of Primary Education candidates in Kisumu are nursing injuries following a road accident this morning ahead of the start of the nationwide examinations. The 2, aged 14 and 16, sustained minor injuries after 2 motorcycles they were riding in collided head-on. They were rushed to Jaramogi Oginga Odinga Teaching and Referral Hospital. Weekly for Ketch with the details of the mishap at the start of the examinations.
The 2 are candidates at St. Paul's Kanyakwara Primary School in Kisumu Central Sub-County and were on their way to school when the accident occurred. According to Kisumu County Director of Education Isaac Katebe, 14-year-old Fidel Onyango was riding on a motorcycle to school when the motorcycle on which he was riding collided head-on with another motorcycle. The boy sustained a fracture on his left leg. 16-year-old Naomi Achieng'a also sustained a minor injury from the accident.
We've reviewed their case. The girl has been discharged and is continuing with the examinations at St. Paul's Kanyakwar in Kisumu Central. The other boy, the candidate who is a boy, is admitted at Jaramogi Oginga, and the doctors are treating him with a view of stabilizing him so that we can see if he can attempt the exam depending on the doctor's advice.
Generally, his mental status is okay, apart from the pain of the leg, which he's on medication. He did not sustain any other chest problem or abdomen problem, and the boy is fit to continue with his exams.
The 2 were rushed to Jaramogi Oginga Odinga Teaching and Referral Hospital, where Naomi was assessed and allowed to proceed to school, while Fidel was admitted and will write his examinations from the facility. The incident occurred moments after the Teachers Service Commission CEO Nancy Macharia supervised the opening and subsequent distribution of examination materials. She called for vigilance and strict observation of COVID-19 protocols by examination administrators.
We've made all these preparations and then we miss the target, then everything will go down the drain, and therefore we must administer these examinations with military precision.
She also challenged teachers to show up for the ongoing vaccination exercise since they are part of the identified high-risk group.
Please take advantage of this vaccine which is being given to you as frontline workers. And we must thank government for ensuring that our security officers and our teachers have been seen as frontline workers, and therefore do not waste this chance.
33,407 candidates have been registered to take the national exams in Kisumu County with a total of 754 examination centers. The exams are being administered under tight security, with each center allocated 2 security officers. Wycliffe Okech, Channel 1 News from Kisumu County.
Now, the Kenya Certificate of Primary Education examinations kicked off in the coastal region, with the Kenya National Examination Council saying the exam was secure. NEC Chairman Professor John Onsati, officiating the opening of the container containing the examination papers, says security has been beefed up and there were no reports of leakages. And Boro with details of the start of the examinations in the coastal region.
6 a.m. on Monday morning in Mombasa. Stakeholders in the education sector and security officers are already at Uhuru Nakazi building, ready to hand over the KCPE papers to the invigilators as the nationwide examinations kick off.
Social distance, what you have received. Kindly confirm what you have received.
Kenya National Examination Council Chairman Professor John Onsati, who was accompanied by the Coast Regional Coordinator John Elungata, directed security officers manning the examination centers to ensure that they cooperate fully to ensure safety of all candidates and examination materials.
We are here to witness the start of these national examinations and also to reassure everybody that the examinations is intact. The examinations has been securely prepared, securely transported to the containers, and we are here to advise our colleagues, the center managers, to continue the process of securing the examinations.
He further called on the center managers to ensure all COVID-19 health protocols as per the Ministry of Health directives are adhered to. Sentiments echoed by the Coast Regional Coordinator, John Elungata.
We are also trying to remind ourselves of this COVID-19, which is causing ravage all over, but we thank God we have been spared, especially to run our schools to this point.
And I think there should be no hurry, there should be no struggle, there should be no pushing and pulling. And of course, we should ensure that we maintain high standards of hygiene, both in the exam room and also as you move from one place to the other.
Elungata reiterated the examinations are well secured and normal practice will be reported.
And I think we've prepared adequately in every part of this region, including Lamu, to ensure that our kids do the exams, the KCPE, without a hitch.
He also urged the public and the students to report any suspicious behavior to security personnel.
So we want to wish you well, and we are always ready to support you. Should there be any problem, don't panic, just make the call. We have the county commissioner is here for Mombasa. They should be able to backstop you in every way possible.
The students sat for the mathematics and English papers as they await the composition paper in the afternoon. For Channel 1 News Hour from Mombasa County, I am Ann Boro.
Now, the government has stamped its authority on strict administration of this year's KCPE by disciplining 4 invigilators who arrived late and absented themselves at the examination center in Kisii County. Principal Secretary for Basic Education and ECD, Julius Joan, who visited Kisii Primary School shortly after releasing the exam papers, ordered immediate replacement of the invigilators who came late. This as 3 candidates in Kitui County gave birth as they sat for the KCPE examinations on Monday. Here is a KCPE roundup across the country.
Due to the coronavirus pandemic, the Kenya Certificate of Primary Education examinations were postponed in 2020. In Kisii County, it was business unusual after 4 invigilators arrived late at the examination center, a situation that prompted Basic Education and ECD Principal Secretary Julius Joang to order for the immediate replacement, adding that their conduct in the examination exercise was unacceptable. He assured the candidates of smooth running of the exam.
Once you commit to be an invigilator or a supervisor or any of us, we must take this seriously.
In Kitui County, 3 girls in Sekoro sub-county are sitting for the exams from various hospitals after giving birth. Kitui County Commissioner John Ondego said when girl gave birth on Sunday night but later developed complications.
Na moja alizaa jana kwenye hospitali. Kwa bahati mbaya alikuwa na complications, lakini ameweza kuanza kufanya mtihani.
In Isiolo County, there was an empty desk at Wabera Primary after its occupant passed on during the COVID-19 long school break. The deceased Boniface Morevi met his death after he fell from a moving lorry near Isiolo town. Education Chief Administrative Secretary Mumina Bonaya, who visited the school, said that it was a sad moment for the candidates after losing one of their own. Another pupil from Emijen Primary School had to sit for her exam from Isiolo Hospital maternity ward after delivering a baby boy.
We've been talking to her on how she will take her exam from the hospital bed. And of course that is very important because we need to give her confidence and ensure that also she's comfortable wherever.
In Busia County, TSC Busia County Director Beatrice Ogwe says it is all systems go as the government has put in place measures to ensure the national examination is administered smoothly in the county. This even as she pointed out that the number of female candidates sitting for the national examination was more than those of their male counterparts.
We have a total of 13,349 male candidates and 13,983 females. So the females are slightly more than the male candidates.
While in Mandera County, the Kenya Certificate of Primary Education kicked off with 57 examination centers in Mandera East Sub-County receiving the examination papers. And in Narrow County, Area County Commissioner Evan Sachoki has called on candidates and examination administrators to ensure the COVID-19 containment protocols are strictly adhered to, even as he assured that security will be tight in the examination period.
We are all set for the national exams. In all the sub-counties, the containers have been opened at 6. The security officers are ready. The transport is ready. And all the center managers with the exams are ready to deliver the exams to all our schools.
In Western Gishu County, distribution of examinations to 727 examination centers across the county kicked off smoothly. County Education Director Gitonga Mbaka indicated that 28,232 KCPE candidates are sitting for exams, adding that security has been beefed up in all centers to ensure the integrity of the exams.
Has deployed all the necessary materials and both necessary resources, both material and human. And I think the integrity of this exam is going to be upheld.
Security has been beefed up in examinations in Samburu County as candidates sat for their KCPE examinations.
Personnel have been properly briefed to make sure that no malpractice takes place at the examination centers. All the center managers have been properly briefed and instructed to ensure that no examination material is transported without a security personnel.
In Embu County, 16,270 pupils in 497 centers sat for the exams as government officials maintain that safety of the pupils would be paramount.
These kids were not in school because of various reasons, the pandemic actually being the key reason. But we are very confident that kids are very resilient and they will be able to tackle on the exams very well because kids have, they have the ability.
Finally, in Kirinyaga County, at least 14,304 candidates in Kirinyaga County will sit for the examination. The county commissioner further assured examination center managers that adequate measures have been put in place to ensure all learners will sit for their examination.
And we are only appealing that all the candidates and the center managers, as they do the exams, and as the center managers administer the exams, let us be cautious about the pandemic, which is in the third wave, which we all know that it is becoming very lethal, but that will not stop us from administering the exams.
Reporting for Channel 1 News, I'm Jackie Wambiru.
Well, those are just some of the events that took place earlier today as the Kenya Certificate of Primary Education National Examinations kicked off. Of course, we'll continue keeping tabs and bring you updates as the examinations continue. Now, in other news, President Uhuru Kenyatta joined other African heads of state and government in paying their last respects to the fallen Tanzania President John Pombe Magufuli at a state funeral in the capital, Dodoma. The late Magufuli was described by many as a true son of Africa who stood for the rights and well-being of Africans. President Kenyatta, who is also the chairperson of the East African Community, eulogized him as a Pan-Africanist who has shown that Africa can thrive with prudent management of her resources. Kenyatta, who pledged continued partnership with the people of Tanzania, urged the new president, Samia Suluhu Hassan, to follow in his footsteps to keep his legacy alive.
This was the situation in Dodoma, Tanzania. Hundreds of thousands turned up to pay their final respects at a prayer service in honor of the late President John Pombe Magufuli. Several African leaders, including Kenya's President Uhuru Kenyatta, described Magufuli as a true son of Africa who stood for the poor. South Africa's President Ramaphosa described him as a warrior against corruption and a champion for African culture and traditions. On his part, President Kenyatta, who chairs the East African Community, of which Tanzania is a member, praised the late leader for the work he did for that country, pledging his support for their new leader.
Kwa muda wa miaka michache ameonyesha ya kwamba sisi kama Waafrika tuko na uwezo wa kujitoa katika dependence ya watu na nchi za nje, na tuko na uwezo kama Waafrika kusimamia uchumi wetu na kuhakikisha ya kwamba wananchi wetu wametendewa haki.
His successor, President Samia Suluhu Hassan, remembered him as a champion of the poor and a religious man.
Poteza kiongozi mahiri, shupavu, jasiri, mchapakazi, mwadilifu, mnyenyekevu, mcha Mungu, mfuatiliaji mzalendo kwa taifa lake, mtetezi wa wanyonge, mwanamwema wa Afrika, mwanamapinduzi wa kweli.
Other presidents in attendance included Malawi's Lazarus Chakwera, Botswana's President, Zambia's Edgar Lungu, Zimbabwe's Emerson Mnangagwa, and the President of the Democratic Republic of Congo, among other world leaders. His coffin, covered by Tanzania's national flag, was escorted to the stadium for people to pay their last respects. Magufuli will be buried in his native home in Chato district of Geita region on Friday. He died at the age of 61 from a heart condition on March 17th in the country's commercial capital, Dar es Salaam.
May he rest in peace. Now, the Ministry of Health has cautioned against laxity among those who have taken the COVID-19 vaccine. Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe says that the vaccine does not offer immediate protection, hence the need to keep adhering to the set guidelines. This coming as Kenya recorded a positivity rate of 22% on Monday, with 1,130 people testing positive for the coronavirus from a sample size of 5,119. Nancy Okware with the details.
With the third wave of COVID-19 spreading in the country like a wildfire, the Minister of Health is expressing concern over flouting of containment measures in place. Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe saying that despite the vaccine being in place for frontline workers, it did not offer immediate protection.
We have had this notion where people are complaining that somebody got positive the day after vaccinating. Now, you will get, if you get exposed, a day, a week, towards 2 weeks, you will still get.
What we do know at the end of the day is that vaccines save lives. We've seen different reports coming out. We've already seen a report that's been published in BMJ, that's the British Medical Journal, that is telling us that once you get the COVID vaccine, it is possible, perhaps, that you may have immunity for at least a period of 1 year.
Partial immune response after 3 weeks. And then you realize the second dose is after 8 weeks. So you have 11 weeks already. When you get the second dose, the full protection comes after the second dose, and it also takes 3 weeks to confer you. So you are talking of 14 weeks.
It is for this reason that the ministry is calling for continuous adherence to the measures in place to contain further spread.
Huwezi kuelewa na rafiki yako ati ukiendelea utaingia shimo. Kila mtu anakuambia hii njia unafuata ni njia ya kukuingiza shimoni. Alafu ukishaingia hiyo shimoni, ukiwa huko chini, unaangalia juu, wale walikuwa na kueleza usiingie ndani ya shimo, unaanza kuambia nyinyi ni watu wambaya, hamnisaidii.
This coming as 1,130 more people tested positive for COVID-19 from 5,119 samples tested, this representing a 22% positivity rate, the highest to be recorded this year. Nairobi County alone accounted for 730 of the new cases. The number of patients admitted in hospital standing at 1,013, out of whom 120 are in the intensive care unit. The Health CS calling on counties to increase their capacity as hospitals in the country were overstretched. The number of fatalities also rose to 2,023, with 12 more patients losing their lives on diverse dates due to late reports on deaths by facilities. Mombasa Governor Hassan Joho has in the meantime called on the essential service providers in Mombasa to come forth and receive the AstraZeneca vaccine.
What we are seeing, the trend that we are seeing today, wale that they were meant for are avoiding taking it. But the good news is that we have bigger numbers of communities that are coming forward asking for the vaccines.
He said that the turnout has been low, even as the county received 12,000 doses. Meanwhile, Migori County has intensified surveillance along its borders with Tanzania as cases of COVID-19 intensify.
And they have been doing a lot of border patrol to ensure that people don't just cross in aimlessly. They must just follow the route, and that is our border point where screening is done.
This coming as Kenyatta University Teaching and Referral Hospital is set to unveil 30 new intensive care unit beds.
We have 24 plus 8, that is 32 beds, and as I said, those are full, and that is why we decided to open up another 30 bed.
As it were, we are ready in terms of preparedness, but we are also enhancing our prevention part so that we can reduce more people being infected.
The Facilities Board of Management Chairperson Olive Mugenda said the new beds will sum to 62 the ICU bed capacity of the referral facility. With the vaccination exercise for frontline workers ongoing across the country, the Ministry of Health is cautioning the public against laxity under the notion that the vaccine offers immediate protection, hence the importance to keep adhering to the set guidelines. Nancy Okware, Channel 1 News.
Now, 57 people found guilty of flouting COVID-19 regulations have been sentenced to 1 week of community service. The 57 who were arrested on Sunday night past curfew hours were presented before Kilimani courts before they were released into the custody of Nairobi Metropolitan Services to serve their sentence. They are expected to clean up parts of the city, starting with Uhuru Park Gardens. Yusuf Farah with the details.
This was the situation on Monday afternoon in Uhuru Gardens, Nairobi. Broom in hand, garbage bins close by. 57 people arrested for violating the curfew orders that began to serve their 1 week of community service. They were arrested on Sunday night at different entertainment joints along Gong Road past curfew hours. Nairobi Metropolitan Services Enforcement Officer Dr. Mark Loleruk says it was unfortunate that they seem to treat the COVID-19 regulations casually.
It's really worrying. If you see the attitude that is being exhibited by these young people, it's quite shocking. You even wonder whether they live in the same world that you are living. They are just floating rules anyhow. They don't even care about themselves.
The first day of the cleanup exercise began in Uhuru Park, after which they will convene every day this week to clean up other parts of the city such as the Marikiti Market, Nairobi River and the Globe Roundabout, among others. Loleruk cautioned those who may consider keeping the cleanup exercise off arrest and incarceration.
Once you are arrested, then the punishment will be bigger than the punishment that someone has received previously.
I want other drunkard people and bar owners to deter or stop and follow the COVID rules and regulations as required. You should close your bar by 9.
Meanwhile, a section of Kitengela residents in Kajiado County are on the spot for flouting COVID-19 guidelines such as donning of face masks. This coming as the country continues to battle with the third wave of COVID-19 infections.
Hii maski tumevaa sababu tunaogopa kushikwa na askari. Number 2 ni ya kupunguza vumbi. Ndio tusipate homa. Corona iko lakini maski ni misionagi kama inaweza saidia.
Yusuf Farah, Channel 1 News.
Well, that story by Yusuf Farah brings us to our first break on Channel 1 News Hour. So don't go too far. We will be back with more news after this short break.
Ili kupata skiza tune hii ya Isaiah 48 kwa simu yako bonyeza *811 817 hash.
Wakati mwingine unaweza kujipata umefinywa pande zote na unaona kama shida yako ni kubwa sana, kama hakuna nguvu ambazo zaweza kuitatua. Lakini ni vyema kujua kwamba kuna Mungu mwenye nguvu na ambaye hachoki kamwe. Isaiah mlango wa 40 mstari wa 8 inasema, "Je, wewe hukujua? Hukusikia? Yeye Mungu wa milele, Bwana, muumba miisho ya dunia, hazimii wala hachoki. Akili zake hazichunguziki."
Ili kupata skiza tune hii bonyeza *811 817 hash. *811 817 hash.
On the next episode of Ashoka.
Ashok, leave from here. Don't even come near me. I don't want to be touched even by the shadow of the person who killed my son.
This arrow is full of poison. Such a dangerous poison which can kill anyone within a fraction of seconds with its drop.
It is strange that in this very palace, one of my loved one is conspiring against me. And on the other side, a princess from an enemy state is trying to do everything possible in order to protect me.
Unichukulie kwa mfano ndani ya matatu.
Yaani mtu mzima na miaka zake, hizo miaka zote mtu ajui kujua kuandika note tu peke yake. Kusoma kweli itasaidia.
Nini nakusumbua na nini?
Nauliza, ni bwana?
There. It's all okay.
Mama yangu.
Don't you dare.
Aya, kwani ni vita? Nini wewe? Yaani wataka kumpiga. Huwezi mpika mpige nini?
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, you are watching Channel 1 News Hour. Now, in other news, the Salary and Remuneration Commission has dismissed claims of political interference in its decision to approve a 4.5 billion shilling car grant for members of the County Assembly. SRC Chairperson Lynn Mengich says the review was approved after counties wrote to SRC indicating they had set aside a budget for the grant.
We will have brief introductions.
The Salaries and Remuneration Commission has denied political interference in its approval of a car grant to members of the county assemblies. SRC Chair Lynn Mengich, who spoke while announcing plans by the Commission to harmonize allowances for public servants, claimed the turnaround decision was informed by a letter from the Council of Governors that the devolved units had set aside funds for the grants in their budgets.
Council of Governors, on behalf of the counties, wrote to the Commission clearly stating that we have now allocated funds. The Commission was not responding, it was responding to something that has been discussed for a very long time, but there was no money. But you now, as an employer, write back and say, I now have the money on that very issue that we have been discussing for a long time. And that way, yes, we said as a Commission, we did advise to go ahead. So that is what informed our decision.
At the same time, the Commission announced plans to minimize disparities in remuneration packages in the public service sector in the next 6 months. According to the Commission, elimination of duplication, redundancy, and disparities in the allowances will ensure prudent use of government resources.
There was unclear and varied justification and eligibility criteria for some allowances and benefits across the public sector institutions, leading to inequality in payment. Again, just re-emphasize the fact that when justification is not clear, then that again leads to the inequity or the unfair pay for same positions, but of course receiving different levels of pay.
The benefit is not about us giving you a specific number and say the wage bill will reduce by this. But if you take all what the 6 expected outcomes in totality, yes, we expect to see better management of the wage bill.
In the plan, the Commission seeks to engage the public and the stakeholders on the draft allowance policy before it's implemented in the next financial year. For Channel 1 News, I'm Gladys Mungai.
Now, a section of MPs from Garissa County are accusing the county government of sabotaging the implementation of the Kenya Development Response to Displacements Impact Project by the World Bank. The MPs are accusing a section of the county leadership of demanding to be signatories to the project's account, which has stalled the kickoff of the project.
A section of legislators from Garissa County are reading mischief in a demand by a section of the county leadership to be signatories in an account where funds by the World Bank have been deposited to push for settlements of those displaced.
From the outset, we'd like to inform you that the county government of Garissa, led by the governor, were not happy with the implementation framework of this project. At the beginning, the governor wrote a letter seeking for removal of Lagdera constituency from the project area.
This project is one of its kind that will have delivered services which the county government has failed to deliver to more than 50% of the residents of Garissa County. It's a project that will have put money into the pockets of thousands of households and will have helped many people during this period of drought, COVID-19, and poor state of the economy. Unfortunately, the very government that is meant to alleviate the suffering of these masses is exacerbating their precarious situation by trying to stop funding and support for service delivery to the residents. We find this extremely unreasonable and unacceptable.
The MPs argue the push and pull is denying locals the much-needed service. They further claim access to basic social amenities, expanded economic opportunities, and enhancement of environmental management for community hosting refugees in the northern parts of Kenya will remain a pipe dream if the national government does not intervene.
We appeal to the CS to stand firm against the county government usurping your powers or misuse of your office by people whose sole objective is to use this project as cash cow. let history not judge you harshly.
County government ifanye kazi yake. Ukienda Dadaab, hospitali imefungwa. Ukienda Lagdera, hospitali imefungwa. Ukienda Fafi, hospitali imefungwa. Ukienda Lagdera tena, maji hakuna. Fafi, maji hakuna. Garissa town, maji hakuna. Ningeomba governor ama county government ya Garissa isaidie wananchi. Tuko na shida pia ya hospitali Garissa.
The Kenya Development Response to Displacements Impact Project was approved by World Bank in 2017 to support Kenya and the Horn of Africa to lessen the human and economic impacts of conflict and violence, particularly among communities that host refugees. It is meant to benefit Wajir, Turkana and Garissa counties. For Channel 1 News, I'm Gladys Mungai.
Now, a warrant of arrest has been issued against former Kisumu County Speaker Onyango Olo. This is after he snapped an ongoing case on the Lake Basin Development Authority. This comes as the Office of the Director of Public Prosecution presented an amended charge sheet with accused persons cut down from 26 to 12. The 14 persons whose charges were dropped will now be state witnesses.
Former Kisumu County Speaker Onyango Olo is now fugitive of the law after the Anti-Corruption Court in Nairobi issued a warrant of arrest against him for failing to show up in court. Onyango is among 12 accused persons in the Lake Basin Development Authority ongoing case. The 12 are facing up to 18 counts, among them conspiracy to defraud the Lake Basin Development Authority over 667 million shillings, willful failure to comply with the law relating to procurement, unlawful charging of public property, and unlawful issuance of security. Appearing before Chief Magistrate Douglas Ogote, the prosecution pointed out that they had dropped 14 suspects who will now appear as witnesses in the case. Meanwhile, former Nairobi Governor Mike Mbuvi Sonko will now have to attend court following a review of his medical report from the Kenyatta Hospital by Magistrate Peter Ooko. The magistrate pointed out that the former governor was fit to attend court given his bed rest expires on the Friday of the 26th this month. He ordered resumption of the case against the governor to continue from the 29th to the 1st of April and on the 22nd of April. For Channel 1 News, I'm Serafina Robbie.
Now, stakeholders in the water sector are calling on the county government to allocate more resources in the provision of water to the population. According to Dr. Maswa Weru, Managing Director Davis and Shatleaf, most of the county governments have a low budget on water provision, adding that the government's 2030 target in providing water accessibility to all might not be achieved. This as millions across the world marked International Water Day on Monday.
This is Lelen village in Baringo County. Years of struggling to access clean water finally came to an end. At the center of it is this borehole that will now enable residents to get clean water at their doorsteps. Thanks to the efforts of a non-governmental organization under the Global Environmental Facility Small Grants Program, residents here have a reason to jubilate. Masilimo, who was once a charcoal burner, has taken advantage of the water to start farming.
Tumepanda mboga, tuko na mboga kwetu, tuko na mahindi, kila aina ya mimea ile tumepanda inakuwa, maji inasaidia kwa shule, inasaidia kwa nyumbani, mifuko wanakunywa.
In Turkana County, residents of Lokopu have a reason to smile after Loima National Government Constituency Development Fund began drilling the first borehole.
Kwa vile tumeona maji ndio hii, tumeona Jaramelo Murukwa ndio hii, ni furaha kubwa sana pao kwa Mungu. Ni furaha kubwa sana pao kwa Mungu.
But none of those members of parliament have tried or even worked hard to ensure the people of Kaapus, the people of Kawalase or even Lomeyan area have water.
How far are we in the fight against water scarcity among the country's population? Stakeholders say county governments have to review their budgets upwards.
Within the arid and semi-arid counties, the allocation was on average about 11% of their financial budget, whereas in the non-ASOL counties, the allocation was about 7%. but the general range of allocation was between 4% to 35%.
Dr. Ma says the government should also incorporate the private sector in provision of the precious commodity.
And this is where the link comes in quite strongly, in the sense that while the government does the administrative policy and implementation, they need to have a supplier who is able to provide and respond in good time to provide it.
Increasing water capacity, also according to the water experts, can be a solution to water scarcity in the country.
From the national level is where we have a lot of work, in the sense that we always have oversupply of rainfall, which is a big source of water. And then we have flooding. And this is where in my first statements I was talking about the need of creating more dams.
And as the globe celebrates Water World Day, majority of Kenyans will agree that there is still more to be done to achieve the universal and equitable access to safe and affordable water for all.
Now to some business news, where Kenyans living abroad sent home more cash in the month of February by 41.3 billion shillings compared to a similar period last year. The latest data from the Central Bank of Kenya indicates that last month's remittances grew by 18.9%, indicating a 28.4 billion shilling growth compared to 23.4 billion shillings despite COVID-19 misfortunes.
Predictions, sub-Saharan Africa remittances were to fall by 23.1%, mostly attributed to the COVID-19 spurred economic crisis and lockdowns. However, the Kenyan situation has reported resilience in the face of these disruptors. The cumulative inflows in the 12 months to February 2021 totaled 343.4 billion shillings compared to 308.5 billion shillings in the 12 months to February 2020, pointing to an 11.4% increase. Notwithstanding, the amounts were much lower compared to 30.3 billion shillings sent in January. Further, the data showed that the US continues to be Kenya's main remittances market at about 19 billion shillings in the period, accounting for over 50% of month-to-month inflows. This has also spelled better days for the Forex Reserve and the Kenyan shilling, which has been pummeled negatively against the US dollar in recent weeks. Diaspora remittances remain Kenya's most significant foreign exchange source, followed by tourism, horticulture, tea and coffee earnings. Alanauko, Channel 1 Business.
Now, the Kenya Agriculture and Livestock Research Organization and the county government of Nakuru have rolled out a training program targeting 15,000 bean farmers in the county. The move is expected to promote best agroeconomic practices in the farming of high-yield and disease-resistant bean seed varieties in the county and the export market.
According to statistics from Nakuru's Department of Health, of the 275,921 children under 5 living in the county, an estimated 27.9% are stunted, way above the national level of 26%. A further 5% are wasted, while 10.2% are underweight. The figures underscoring the need for improving the country's food security and nutrition situation. To this end, the government is propping various bean varieties, Angaza, Metameta, Faida and Nyota, which are fast maturing and richer in nutrients that take between 15 and 27 minutes to cook compared to the traditional 3 hours.
Mwetamani ilikuwa inatoka kama gunia 4-5 kwa eka. Na sasa unaona ni vile imezaa kabisa. Wakati mwingine hata huwa inatoka 3. So tukaona ni hasara ukilinganisha na Nyota.
Tangu tulipoletewa hii mbegu ya Nyota, tumeona matumaini, imekuwa na usaidizi katika manyumba yetu.
Speaking during a training session for smallholder farmer groups at Gituamba village within Kiambogo location of Gilgil sub-county, stakeholders said farmers are now being enlightened on compliance with applicable laws and regulations to tap into the export market.
The main reason of the training is basically what behavioral change the members of the women group need to do so that they can be able to grow Nyota bean commercially.
A farmer can harvest between 400 kilograms and 700 kilograms from 1 acre, where prices of beans will be higher by about 20% when compared to the ordinary breeds in the market. The beans are preferred for export after packaging, canning and sourcing. Alan Auko, Channel One Business.
Now, an initiative to offer entrepreneurship skills to improve literacy skills among women and youth in Turkana County has turned out to be a game changer in the county, where poverty and literacy levels are considered high.
200 beneficiaries have turned into agents of Hunger and Safety Network program, dispensing thousands of shillings to the elderly in the semi-arid county. The initiative that has been implemented by Lotus Kenya Action for Development organization.
In the years, pastoralists have been to some extent neglected. They are not given the due attention that they should be getting in terms of how much they contribute to the economies. And the governments do not similarly invest as much as the amount that they should be investing compared to the benefits that the countries get from the pastoralist activities.
The project targets cross-border communities living in Kenya, Uganda and Ethiopia, terming the current entrepreneurship skills as a major win for the community.
65% of these beneficiaries were women and youth. And we have seen success. The success, growth and development in terms of business is rated to be above 80%. We've seen some of them even diversifying their enterprises. They moved from the assets that we gave them and further brought more stock into what to booster what had already been offered.
Meanwhile, close to 800 youth in Oloitoktok, Kajiado County, have benefited from a 32 million funded Safaricom Foundation Youth in Agribusiness program, while 50 young women in Bungoma are also being supported in poultry farming. Statistics from the Ministry of Agriculture Sector Transformation and Growth Strategy show that agriculture contributes to 33% of total GDP, 60% of informal employment, and 60% of exports. The latest census data shows that 39% of youth eligible for hire are unemployed.
Is that most of the people who are doing agriculture for commercial purposes are over 60 years old. Majority of farming is done for subsistence, so they don't make money from it, and a lot of youth therefore are unable to do agriculture.
Wametusaidia na mbegu, watusaidia na something to do with pipes, machine, kila kitu yenye mashamba inasaidia.
Now, the past 1 year has been one of the toughest for a majority of Kenyans since the COVID-19 pandemic hit the globe and affected the economy. And since then, many businesses have been struggling to survive. However, some areas like the coast have been hit hardest, as the region entirely depended on tourism, forcing residents to seek alternative means of survival.
A group of women from Malindi who were formerly beach operators and heavily relied on foreign tourists have diversified into soap-making business. Baharini Women Group came up with the idea to cushion themselves from further losses and provide a lifeline for their families. The modest venture is proving lucrative, albeit financial constraints threaten its growth. Going forward, the women are calling for financial support to expand their business.
Sahi mambo ya utalii uko chini sana. Sasa huwa tunapata time nyingi kutengeza hizi bidhaa zetu. Ya jik, tunatengeza jik, tunatengeza sabuni ambayo ni multipurpose, tunatengeza Dettol, tunatengeza acid ambayo inatumika kwa kutoa zile strong stains.
Elsewhere, small businesses in Meru County are slowly picking up amid COVID-19 disruptions. According to Meru County Revenue Board General Manager Dr. John Toinoti, the notable increase in revenue collection was a strong indicator that the county's economic status was improving compared to the previous financial year.
Tested for COVID-19 as is required.
Less than a week after registering a 2-1 win in an international friendly match against neighbours Tanzania, which followed their 1-0 victory over South Sudan early in the month, national football team Harambee Stars reported to camp last evening as they aimed to earn qualification to the 2022 Africa Cup of Nations. Local-based players were the first to head to camp as Stars prepare to host Egypt in the first qualifier in Nairobi, with a number of foreign-based players arriving today, among them Michael Lunga. Stars play Egypt on Thursday at the Kasarani Stadium before wrapping up their qualification campaign on Monday next week away to Togo in the capital, Lome. Stars, under the tutelage of Jacob Gosmuley, are currently third in Group G on 3 points, 2 ahead of bottom place Togo and 5 points behind leaders Egypt, who lead Comoros by a better goal difference.
Now, the triumphant para-athletics team to the just concluded para-athletics Grand Prix in Tunisia arrived back home Monday morning after a successful outing in Tunis that saw them bag a total of 16 medals. The Grand Prix season resumes in Italy, with the Jesolo GP being staged from the 16th to 18th of April.
The Kenyan team bagged 16 medals, 2 gold, 6 silver and 8 bronze. Wilson B and John Lokedi bagged gold for Kenya, while Vincent Mutai, Mero Ethera and Eric Sang are some of the athletes who bagged silver.
Kitu cha maana ilikuwa qualifying time, the best time. Na nashukuru Mungu kwa hayo yote. Pia nashukuru serikali ya Kenya vinya ametushikilia sisi tukua people with disability kwa upande ya sports. Pia president wetu Chair Lady Agnes Olwoch ndio ametushikilia pia tukua people with disability ambao tulikuwa tumeenda kushiriki kwa mbio hizo za kule Tunisia.
The event was used by the para-athletes to qualify for the Tokyo Paralympic Games later in August this year.
Tusababisha hawa wapate hii medali ni discipline. Discipline yao iko very high na wanakubaliana na mazoezi ile tunawapatia kama coaches, na wanafanya everything that we need as coaches ili waweze kufaulu. Tunashukuru sana na tunashukuru kila mtu katika nchi yetu ambaye ametusaidia ili tuweze kufaulu katika michezo haya. Tunatarajia mema, tunaenda Olympic na tunaenda kuperform, and we are going to make our country proud of us.
The 3-day event, which attracted athletes from 60 countries, including 15 world champions, came to a close on Saturday in Tunisia. Host Tunisian neighbours Morocco topped the medal standings in the second stop of the 2021 season, bagging 28 and 23 medals respectively.
Now, the Kenya Footballers Welfare Association today named midfielder Cheryl Angachi as the February Player of the Month in the Football Kenya Federation Women's Premier League, an event held at the KCPE Sports Club. Now, the gospel player, who also plays for the national team, Harambee Starlets, was voted for by her fellow players, who termed her as a hardworking and committed to the club in the played February matches. The award was given out by the president of the KEWAFA, James Situma, who encouraged the teams to work hard so as to take the Women's League to the higher levels. Naivas Supermarket chipped in and issued a 10,000 shilling shopping voucher to Cheryl.
I feel poor kupata player of the month cause naona hizo team zingine za Premier League maybe wameona na deserve wakamwanivotie, so naweza wa thank sana, then naweza thank maplayer wangu, teammates wangu kwa kunimake nikuwe hivyo, then na thank coach sana juu yetu pia ndo amefanya nikafika hapa penye niko, bila yeye maybe singekuwa hivi, then na thank Curfew kwa hii voucher wamenipea, wamenimotivate. So ndaendelea kukeep effort nikijua maybe nataka ingine tena.
This is an initiative yenye tulikama up nayo kuona we can motivate them and make sure that wanaendelea kucheza ball poa, cause we just saw that the main football maybe wanapewa some more attention kushinda women league, na unaangalia pia wanafanya good stuffs down there, so tukakama up na hii initiative ambayo tulirudisha bado kwa players wenyewe wanajivotia, wanaona which player may stand out that month, so wanafanya voting then wanakama up na winner.
And English Premier League leaders Manchester City will take on Chelsea in the FA Cup semi-finals. Manchester City secured a 2-0 win over Everton on